Consider the function f of x is equal to 5 over x minus 2. First, let's discuss the domain of this function. Remember that when 0 is in the denominator of a fraction, this fraction becomes undefined. So this is going to happen at x is equal to 2. This is the only restriction on f, so the domain is all real numbers except at x, when x is 2. However, all the numbers surrounding 2 do exist for f. They are defined there. So we are going to look at the behavior of those numbers around 2 and what happens to our function around those numbers. So if you take a look at the table here, I have taken numbers that are a little bit smaller than 2. So x is equal to 1.9, 1.99, 1.999, and so on. And even though those numbers are getting closer and closer to 2, they are all still smaller than 2. So let's substitute in each of these x's into our f of x. So 1.9 is going to give us negative 50. 1.99 is going to give us negative 500. 1.999 is going to give us negative 5,000. The next one will give us negative 50,000. And the last one is going to give us negative 500,000. Now let's discuss how we write this mathematically on what is happening in our table. So first, let's take a look at the x's. So as we already discussed, we have chosen x's that are a little bit smaller than 2, but they are getting closer and closer to 2. So mathematically, we write x arrow 2 superscript little minus symbol. And this reads as x approaching 2 from the left. So the arrow is going approaching 2, and then the little superscript of the minus is telling you from the left, the numbers that are smaller than 2. Now the y's, let's look at those values. So 50, 500, 5,000, those magnitudes, they're getting larger and larger. But because there is a negative sign in front of all these numbers, these numbers are actually all getting smaller. Because remember that negative 2 is smaller than negative 1. So negative 500 is smaller than negative 50. Negative 5,000 is smaller than negative 500. So what we say here is that the y's are decreasing without bound. Because as you can see with the pattern, the next one would be negative 5 million. So how we write that is y arrow, negative infinity. So you can say y is decreasing without bound. You can also say x is approaching negative infinity. So if we put all of our observations together and discuss what is happening in the whole table, what we would state is, in mathematical symbols, as x is approaching 2 from the left, y is decreasing without bound or approaching negative infinity.